So today we're going to be going over a couple of problems with how to find volume of a cone when the problem is a word problem. So not just them drawing a picture or telling you what's what, where you might actually have to do a little bit of work on your own. So again, remember, like I've always said, please make sure that you actually take your time, take notes, write the heading, just like this was a regular class. That's how you should do it in order to make sure that you are successful. Okay? So let's get started. Here is the first problem. All right, so first of all, it says right off at the beginning that this is a cone-shaped cup. So obviously, we're dealing with a cone. And it's filling with water, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch the cone, but when I do it, I'm going to maybe make it a little bit like this. So the reason, again, I'm drawing it upside down as well because it's a cup and it needs to fill up. So there's my cone, actually reasonably better than I usually draw. Anyways, then it says that the height of the cup, so let's say from about there to there, pretend that's a straight line, that height, it says, is 10 centimeters, and it says the diameter, so remember diameter is all the way across the base or all the way across the circle, however you want to think about it, so that's going to be all of this, and it says that that's going to be 8 centimeters, and it asks us to find the volume. So step one, or well, let me back up. This is more like a pre-step, right? You should probably just draw the shape, sketch it. I mean, it really didn't take me that long. It's literally drawing a cone, which is 2 lines and an oval, is how you draw a cone. So draw it out before you start into the actual steps, right? And then I'm going to go back to exactly what I was doing the last lesson, and I'm going to go to step number 1. The volume of a cone, I'm abbreviating here, the volume of a cone, is equal to pi r squared h all divided by 3. Because remember, it's really the same thing as a cylinder. Just make sure you add that step at the end where you divide by 3. So then all I got to do is plug everything in. So my pi, as usual, is 3.14. My radius, as I'm sure you know by now, is not 8. It's half of the diameter. The radius is halfway across the circle, half of the diameter. So that's actually going to be 4. So I'm going to plug in 4 squared. And remember, that means times itself, not times 2. And the height, as it told me, and I drew, is 10. And then at the very, very end, I'm going to divide everything by 3. So I'm just going to pull out my calculator and do this myself, and I hope you're following along and doing it on your calculator or on your phone, whatever, as well. So I'm multiplying 3.14 times 4 again, because it's squared, times 10. Then I'm pressing the equal sign, okay? So I'm getting there 502.4. And then I'm going to press divided by 3. So make sure you press the equals first and then press divided by 3. And so the answer it's giving me is 167 point, I'm going to round up to 0.5 because it says 4666. I'm just going to round it to the nearest tenth because that's what it actually says to do up there. And don't forget, this is going to be in cubic centimeters because that's the units that the problem is in. All right, that's really it. So it's exactly the same thing we were doing last time, but instead of drawing the cone for you, just take a couple extra seconds, draw the cone yourself, so you know what it looks like. And yeah, I mean, that's really all there is to it. Let me do 2 more problems with you, then I'll put a couple more problems up here for practice that you can do on your own. And as usual, if you're stuck on something, just screenshot it or whatever you want and shoot me a question about how I did it or how I got it, and I'll be able to help you out on it, okay? All right, so this one says it's a storage shed in a conical shape. Conical meaning, cone. I don't know why you'd have a storage shed in the shape of a cone, but, people come up with weird math problems all the time, so we're going to go with it. So that's a storage shed. Usually they're a box, but again, whatever. So it says the base is 4 meters in diameter, so diameter, keyword, it's all the way across. And that's going to be 4 meters. And the height, by the way, I think I should have mentioned this, but notice that the height is not like this. This would be called the slant height. The height is actually straight up and down. Often it's drawn like in the middle of the cone. Either way, like off to the side or in the middle, doesn't really matter. But either way, the height is not slanted. The height is always going to be straight up and down. Okay, just so you know. And the height, it says, is 3.8 meters. And so again, I'm just going to plug things into my formula. So step 1, write the formula. You're used to that by now. Volume equals pi r squared h divided by 3. Step 2, plug everything in and simplify. So that's 3.14. Radius is half of 4, right? Oh no, anybody see the mistake? Okay, I hope you did. I know I sound corny, but look, I plugged in 4, so be careful. If you're rushing, you're going to plug in the wrong number. Remember, the radius is half of the diameter, so what you should really be plugging in is the number 2. So it's going to be 2 squared and then times the height, which is 3.8. And then remember, you're going to divide everything by 3. So again, I'm just pulling out my calculator right now, and please do this with me. 3.14 times 2 times 2 times 3.8 equals, and that is going to be 47.728. I'm not rounding till the very, very last step, otherwise I'm going to be wrong with my rounding, so don't forget to do that. So we're going to press equals, and then you're going to press divided by 3, and now I'm going to round it to the nearest tenth. The word got cut off, but it's round to the nearest tenth, okay? That's going to be 15.9, and that's going to be, let's look at the units, that's going to be in cubic meters. And that's it. That's how you do that problem. All right, I'm going to do one more for you, and then I'll leave the other ones up there for a few seconds each. I just pause the video, work them out, and again, if you get stuck on one of them, just ask me how to do it, and I'll help you out. Notice that this problem is ever so slightly different. They're actually setting it up a little backwards for you, right? So they're actually giving you the volume. So just to be safe, I'm still going to draw it out, right? So I know that here's my cone, and here's the base of the cone. All right, so it says the volume of a cone with a 30 millimeter radius. So notice that it says radius, so we know it's only going to be halfway across. That's 30. I'm going to write mm for millimeters. And it says the volume is 9,420. So if I think about this, I'm just going to write this volume is going to be 9,420. So notice that it's basically giving me the answer, and then it's asking me to work backward and find the height. So these types of problems are really common. You're going to see them all the time. Don't get confused or scared by them. Again, you're really just doing the exact same thing you were doing before. You're just solving for different variables. Let me set this up for you. So remember, again, step 1, always write the formula. It doesn't matter what you're doing. So volume of a cone equals pi r squared h divided by 3. And now I'm going to plug things in. So instead of plugging things in on the right side first, I already know that on the left side, the volume, the answer is going to be 9,420. So I'm going to write 9,420 because that's my answer. Equals pi, which I know is 3.14. I know my radius, they gave it to me, that's going to be 30. I'm still going to have to square it. The height, I don't know, so I'm going to leave it as h because I don't know what it is. And at the end, I know I have to divide by 3. So notice in this problem, you're not just plugging things into a calculator. Now you actually have to solve for a variable. Specifically, you're solving for h. That's the exact same thing as solving for x. So remember, when you isolate a variable, what you're doing is you're doing reverse PEMDAS. So you're doing this order of operations, but you're doing it backwards. So you're asking yourself, okay, what's happening to the h, the variable that I want to have by itself? Is it being subtracted by anything? No. Is it being added by anything? No. Is it being divided by anything? Yes. Yes, it's being divided by 3. So instead of dividing by 3, we're going to do the opposite, which is multiplying by 3. So I'm going to multiply this side of the equation by 3. And of course, if I do it to one side, I'm going to have to do it to the other. Now I pull out my calculator. So on the left side, I have 3 times 9,420. That's a reasonably big number. I'll write it down. It says 28,260. Okay, it's on the left because I multiplied these two things together. These two things right here. On the right side, what's going to happen is that the 3 that used to be in the denominator and the 3 I just multiplied by are going to cancel each other, leaving me with 3.14 times 30 squared times h. Now you have some options here I should point out. You could have actually done this even before you started. You could have multiplied these two things out first and just gotten the coefficient, right? So you could have done 3.14 times 30 times 30 times h, and you would have gotten like a really big number, h. So like just like you have like 2 times x would be 2 times 2 is 4x. Same idea, just with bigger numbers, right? 3.14 times 30 times 30. Remember, 30 times 30 is 900. So that would have been like 1,200 something odd change h. Could have done that. Nothing wrong with doing that. It's perfectly fine. But for the sake of doing what we're doing, we're just going to keep doing exactly what we're doing. So again, I'm isolating the h, working backwards through PEMDAS. Now I'm on the step, is h being multiplied by anything? And yes, it is. It's being multiplied by this number right here, the 30 squared, and it's also being multiplied by this number right here, the 3.14. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by both of those terms. Now, this doing by hand can get a little tricky, so follow along because I'll show you how to do it in a calculator. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the work, right? So I'm dividing this side by 3.14. I'm also dividing it by 30 squared. And if I divide it on one side, of course, I have to do the same thing on the other. So I'm dividing this by 3.14. I'm also dividing this by 30 squared. Okay, now on the right side, just so you understand what's going to happen, the 30 squared and the 30 squared are going to cancel. 3.14 and 3.14, the pi's, they're going to cancel. Meaning, after I'm done with all this, I'm going to have h by itself, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Now on the left side, all you got to do is be careful and do it on the calculator, okay? So what I'm doing, and I know you can't see me, but follow along. It's 28,260 divided by 3.14, and I'm going to press the equal sign, okay? Now on your calculator, if you're following along, it actually says the number 9,000, but bear with me. So I did 28,260, then I pressed divided by 3.14, and then I pressed equals. So on your calculator, you should have the number 9,000. So I already divided this number here, okay? Then I'm going to press divided by 30, and I'm going to press equals. Now what I just did was I divided by one of the 30. So I'm going to maybe I'll cross the 2 out because I did one of them, right? And I pressed equals. Now on your calculator, it should be 300 because you went from 9,000. 9,000 divided by 30 is 300. Now I'm going to press divided by 30 again because remember, I have it 2 times. So now when I press equals, I've divided by the last 30, and all I have left is a very nice number, 10. That means my final answer is 10. And I should point out that it's not just 10. I have to put my units. The height is going to be 10 millimeters. And you might be asking me, well, why didn't I put a 3? Why didn't I cube it at the top? Well, remember, volume is cubic, right? So like what we started off here, that would have been in cubic, that would have been in cubic millimeters. But my final answer, the height is not cubic. Height is just the length. So it's just going to stay 10 millimeters. All right, and that's how you do this type of problem. So again, that's all I have for notes for you, so please make sure you followed along, you pause the video, try to work things out. I'm going to go ahead and post 3 more problems up here, so here's the first one. And again, pause the video, try to figure it out on your own. If you get stuck, ask me a question, Google Classroom, I'll get back to you. Okay, here's the next problem. Again, pause the video to write it down or work on it on your own. And here's the last problem, so go ahead and take a few minutes and work it out, okay? All right, that's all I have for you for word problems with a cone.